Eddie Chavez, Ruben Nava, and Jesse Romero. Jesus 911.
Good morning, Jesus 911 listeners. It's Eddie Chavez on Jesus 911 for you. This is not just a regular 911 call. This is a Jesus 911 call. Welcome to Jesus 911. Justice, how you doing?
Reporting for duty, sir.
Very good, very good. Hey, listen, we have a great show. It's packed, Jess. We got so much stuff to go on, but I want to do a quick little correction before we go on. On Friday, when I had a single officer car, I was talking to a caller towards the end of the show. I think her name was Kat, and I was talking to her about the image of Our Lady of Undoer of Knots. Okay, I mistakenly said, I knew it wasn't reality. I was talking about a apparition of the Virgin Mary, but it was not an apparition. It's just an image. The devotion goes back to the 2nd century. You can Google it and find out. But I did know that it was wrong. So just in case anybody was willing to correct me, I stand corrected.
Awesome. Hey, Eddie, today at Holy Mass, virtually, I would say not every day, but at least every second or third day, the gospel reading has to do with something with the diabolical. And by the way, that's why we do this show here, Eddie, because too many Catholics get their information from Hollywood. And not that everything that Hollywood says is wrong, but it's going to be incomplete. It's going to be a half truth. And so we want to give you, as the Catholic Church has always taught, the fullness of the truth, especially when it comes to spiritual warfare. You definitely don't want to get this wrong.
Exactly.
And in today's gospel, I want to delve into what the Catholics are listening to around the world and make some commentary here. It's from Mark chapter 9, verses 14 to 29. Let's read it, then we'll make some commentary here. As Jesus came down from the mountain with Peter, James, and John and approached the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them and scribes arguing with them. Immediately on seeing them, the whole crowd was utterly amazed. They ran up to him and greeted him. He asked them, "What are you arguing about with them?" Someone from the crowd answered him, "Teacher, I have brought to you my son possessed by a mute spirit." Okay, so here we got a case of demonic possession. Demonic possession, according to the Catholic Church, the Council of Trent, 1614 AD, says 4 things are common. It could be other things as well, but these are the ones that are common. Aversion to holy objects, number 1. Number 2, preternatural strength. Number 3, they know languages. They speak languages that they never studied. And number 4, they know things, hidden things, secret things about people that nobody else should know. Those are the 4 characteristics of possession according to the Council of Trent. And you'll see a lot of these things here as we go along with the story. It goes on to say, wherever it seizes him, it throws him down. He foams at the mouth. By the way, that's also another manifestation of somebody who's demonized. They'll foam at the mouth. It says here, grinds his teeth. That's another manifestation of somebody who's demonized. They grind their teeth and becomes rigid. That's classic.
Yeah.
That one's in possession. That one's in even just people that are lower levels of oppression and obsession. You can see their body go rigid.
Right.
Sometimes they call that at night sleep paralysis.
Right.
Goes on to say here, I asked your disciples to drive it out, but they were unable to do so. Jesus said to them in reply, "O faithless generation, how long will I be with you? How long will I endure you? Bring him to me." Now, how did this boy get possessed? It doesn't tell us how he got possessed, but here's what Dr. Scott Hahn basically says about all these possessions in the New Testament. All the Israelites, just like Catholics, Eddie, were tempted to go to especially in the Latino community. Hey, there's a botanica down the street, a shop where there's a healer or some diviner or
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go over there. There's a healer over there. The Jews were also tempted, much like Catholics are today in the modern inner city places, in the barrios and ghettos. There was a lot of soothsayers, magicians, witches, and the Jews are saying, wow, everybody else goes to them. Why can't I? So a lot of the Israelites would go to them, or just even embrace their wicked religious practices, like accept the Roman gods and worship them, the Greek gods and worship them. So a lot of people were possessed as a result of dabbling in the occult, which was prevalent at the time of Christ, all around the Jews, or the worship of false gods. And remember that St. Paul's very clear. You can read it in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. St. Paul says that if you're worshiping an idol or a false god, he says, you're not worshiping a false god at all. You're worshiping a demon. So this is probably how the boy got possessed. In this case, that's probably what the exorcist would call the doorway or the portal.
Right.
It says here, they brought the boy to him, and he saw him. The spirit immediately threw the boy into convulsions. Okay, that's just another sign of possession, but that's even a sign of, you can see that in oppression and obsession. Sometimes they'll just convulse even when they're not fully possessed. It says here, he began to roll around and foam at the mouth. Then he questioned his father, how long has this been happening to him? He replied, since childhood. It has often thrown him into the fire and into the water to kill him. There's a classic case there.
Yep.
What's the end game of demons?
That's the end game right there, just kill
That's the end game.
Get rid of
you to kill yourself, or them to kill you, or you to commit suicide. I could tell you personal stories, but it would be too long. This is exactly what demons, they wear you down with doubt, despair, fear, God doesn't love me, hopelessness, until you commit suicide.
Right.
Goes on to say, but if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said to him, if you can, everything is possible to the one who has faith. Then the boy's father cried out, I do believe, help my unbelief. That's an honest prayer, Eddie. That's like all of us.
That's a random prayer, Jess. That came from the man's heart. You know, I think the listeners should realize just that at this point the man is telling Jesus, telling the Christ here how long they've been suffering, through this demonic spirit that has possession of this child and what they've been through. And as soon as Jesus begins to listen to them and hears the explanation and is about to cure him, he says, I do believe, help my unbelief. That's a perfect random prayer from his heart.
And you know, also that prayer, Scott Hahn, I remember 20 years ago at a family conference, he asked us to start saying that prayer. If you want to increase your faith in the real presence of the Eucharist, he said, pray that prayer during the consecration. And I do. I since I heard him say it like 20 years ago, this morning at Mass, when Father raised the bread and it became the body of Christ, when he said the words, as he did the elevation, I said, I believe, help my unbelief. When he raised the precious blood, the chalice, the second elevation, I looked and I said, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Scott says when you say that during the consecration, it gives you an increase of faith in the real presence. And boy, oh boy, do we all need it this day and age, especially with a lot of the poor examples we have amongst the clergy, Eddie.
Absolutely, just.
It says, Jesus, on seeing a crowd rapidly gathering, rebuked the unclean spirit. The word rebuke means to criticize. That's what it means. To criticize sharply. Rebuked the unclean spirit and said to him, mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. Talk about full and complete healing. Shouting and throwing the boy into convulsions, it came out. By the way, you'll hear exorcists tell you that right when a demon is leaving the body, and I've seen this before too, the person will start going into convulsions for about a minute, 2-3 minutes, and then that's a sign that the demon's leaving. Where does that come from? Right here, the words of the New Testament, Jesus. And I've heard exorcists tell me this, and I've seen it myself. It says, but Jesus took him by the hand, raised him up, and he stood up. When he entered the house, his disciples asked him in private, why could we not drive the spirit out? He said to them, this kind can only come out through prayer. And by the way, other manuscripts say through prayer and fasting. Yeah. So it's the New American Bible says through prayer. The RSV and the Douay Rheims says through prayer and fasting. The gospel of the Lord. Eddie?
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. You know, just this is so much in here. There's so much to grasp in here. Yeah. But you know, you see the attitude of the gentleman, of the man here, the Jewish man who's bringing his child to Christ. It's a sincere prayer that he prays. It's something that he wants to happen. You see how he what happens after the exorcism by Jesus here, becomes like a corpse. Many said he's dead. This boy is obviously acting in a way that he had never acted before, Jess. He's acting in a way that people think the kid's dead. He's not moving. He's still. So there's so much stuff going on here, but this is a good introduction, Jess, into the rest of today's stories that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes here, about how Satan has a plan to destroy the Christian world. And I think we're going to see in that talk, in that article, and another second article that we're going to talk about, which is the age of anti-Mary, which also has to do with Satan's plan to destroy Christianity, is something that's so important. Very, very beautiful talks today.
Yeah, Eddie, and also regarding today's gospel, what's the common denominator in anybody who's ever been healed of possession or oppression or obsession? The common denominator is Jesus Christ. He is the healer. He's the divine physician. He's the medic of our souls. It's the person of Christ and the authority that he brings that cast out demons in every single instance in the New Testament and in every single instance in the Roman Catholic Church, Eddie.
And Jess, you have to understand, people have to understand that these exorcists are entirely open and honest with that fact, with the fact that it's not them. Even if Father Gabriel Morth was alive and could answer that question, and you asked him, somebody asked him, Father, how do you do that? Well, it's not me. It's the Lord Jesus Christ. Very clear. Ritberger, all the major power players in exorcism will say the same exact thing. It's through Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Jesus 911 here on this Monday morning. Stay right with us. We'll be right back. Don't change that dial.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. There's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet three men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show, and they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back, Jesus 911 here. Good morning, everyone. Listen, before we go on to the next topic, Jess, I see some chat going on about St. John Vianney's heart, which was on display. It's still here in LA. I think it's going to be at I think it's St. John Vianney's parish today. I believe it is. You could get online and check it. But what a beautiful relic, Jess. I mean,
tell us about it, Eddie.
It's in Hacienda Heights. Excuse me. Thank you, Rich. But yeah, you know what, Jess? It was just a small little relic, just maybe maybe a foot by foot large, and it was a slice of his heart. You could see it was a perfect shape. It was just
incorrupt.
It was incorrupt. Obviously, St. John Vianney's body was incorrupt. Just a little thing with his face. They put a mask on him, but they separated his body. They have little parts everywhere, and I'm sure that the heart is more than one slice of his heart. But it's just beautiful to go and see, and just you could just feel the holiness in there. They had the third degree Knights of Columbus that were standing guard there, and they would switch off every so often. It was very beautiful. St. Elizabeth, it was a great honor of St. John Vianney. So if you get a chance today, Hacienda Heights, St. John Vianney's parish, St. John Vianney's heart on display there for you to see. Okay.
Let me just mention about St. John Vianney. He's the patron saint of parish priests.
Yeah.
And he was just one incredible priest talking about spiritual warfare. Along with Padre Pio, he was harassed, annoyed, tormented, attacked by demons. It was so common, the visit of the devil to his rectory. He lived by himself. There's a story that he heard somebody in the kitchen, hear dishes banging and clanging and stuff, and he gets out of bed and he goes over to the kitchen because he knows he's by himself. So he's thinking, well, there's a robber in here or something. There's a burglar, excuse me. So he goes to the kitchen and he sees the devil sitting on a stool or sitting on a chair there in the dining table. And this was so common, apparently. St. John Vianney looked at him and goes, oh, it's just you again. I'm going back to bed. See, this is a spiritual warfare tactic that I always share with people, okay? Especially, we have to learn at a certain level because all of us are being attacked. It's called the ordinary activities of a demon. That's temptation. That happens to everybody. The extraordinary, that's what happened in today's gospel. That those are acute attacks, oppression, obsession, possession. But the ordinary attacks, everybody goes through them. So we have to do what St. John Vianney did. What did he do? You ignore it. If I told you guys every day some of the annoyances that happen to me that are preternatural, it would take up the whole show. I don't even mention them because I know it's a demon because of what I'm doing, what I've chosen to do with my life. I just ignore most of it throughout the day. And we have to learn how to do that at a certain level because demons are worse than politicians. They're narcissists. They're like, me, look at me. Don't focus on Jesus. Don't focus on faith. Focus on me. I'm going to move something in your house. I'm going to close this door. I'm going to make a noise over here in the closet. Focus on me. I just dismiss them. I've learned years ago. At night I hear them, and on the day I hear them. I just don't pay attention to them. Eddie, but going to this other article here, I know the guy. I know Matt Walsh. I met him. I met him for the first time over when I spoke at Michael Voris's Church Militant Conference over in Baltimore, Maryland, when we were speaking right across where the U.S. bishops were having their meeting. Matt Walsh is a very impressive young Catholic. He if I could paint a picture of him, he's like the Catholic Ben Shapiro. Okay, just a smart, highly read, intelligent, young. In fact, him and Shapiro are friends. That's the way I would describe this young man. He's the Catholic Ben Shapiro, and he's just got an incredible article here, very simple, about the way the devil plans to destroy Christianity in America. Eddie, what does he say?
Okay, so he's talking about this Satan's plan to destroy Christianity in America. This is what he says. He says, Catholic blogger and American pundit Matt Walsh outlined a recent speech of Satan's attack to destroy Christianity in America. Satan has two battle plans or modes of attack that he uses throughout history to attack Christians. Walsh explained this speech delivered at St. Mary of the Pine Bluff Catholic Church in Cross Plains, Wisconsin on April 7th. The first is the old school, blood and martyrs, essentially persecution. It's very simple, very straightforward. He said, kill the Christians. That's the first thing that you do. Walsh told his audience that Satan is using his tactic on Christians who are being persecuted across the world on an unprecedented scale. Although the media and the church in the USA largely ignore it, the reality is that the ground all over the globe is soaked in Christian blood. A recent report tells us that Christian persecution and genocide is worse now than it's ever been in history, which is an astounding fact, he said. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, he's saying that right now Christian persecution and genocide of Christians, generally in the Middle East, in those countries, are beyond what they ever have been in recorded history. That's amazing to think of that. So,
Eddie, there's a Protestant ministry that actually chronicles this every day. If you ever want to look at it, it's called Open Doors, and they chronicle all the killings of Christians, both Catholics and Protestants and Orthodox around the world. It's called Open Doors. They do a very good job. All they do is put in the data there so you can see every day what Christian got killed, where, and by who, and it's generally under a communist or a Muslim. Okay, and the second thing is there's also one of our guys who documents this very well. His name is Robert Spencer. He's probably the sharpest guy in the Catholic Church when it comes to Islam and terrorism. Robert Spencer is a Chaldean Catholic. He's written about 10 books on Islam, and most of his books are published through Catholic Answers. He's the best apologist when it comes to Islam in the Catholic Church, bar none. He has a website called jihadwatch.com, and he has a running count there since 9/11 of Christians being killed, where, when, and by who. So what Matt Walsh is saying can be verified by these two, Open Doors and by jihadwatch.com.
Just let's go by one of the things that happened that Matt Walsh is talking about in this article. He says, robbed of I'm going to cut this down so we can get through it quickly, but it says, robbed of their personal belongings and ordered to renounce Christianity in favor of Islam. The captives, it was a bus that they cut off. The captives refused one by one and were brutally shot, according to witnesses. A dozen masked and armed men cut them off and asked them to renounce God, said a woman from the village of Nazlet, which lost 7 residents. They were told, no, there is no question about it. So the massacre began. The parish priest from the village praised the ultimate sacrifice made by the Coptic faithful. Coptic Christians, ladies and gentlemen, they're Catholics. They're not Roman Rite Catholics, but Coptic Catholics are Catholics. We must be proud of our beloved dead, stated Father Pernaba Fazi Hanin. None of them denied God. They died as believers. They are our martyrs. They asked them to deny their Christian faith one by one, another priest said, but they all refused. The bus carrying the pilgrims to the remote desert monastery of St. Samuel the Confessor was traveling through the province of Minya, about 120 miles south of Cairo, last Friday when the terrorist attack happened. After seizing the Christians' money and other personal effects, witnesses said the terrorists told them to reject Christianity and pronounce Islamic profession of faith, the Shahada. As each of the kneeling pilgrims...
By the way, the Shahada is a prayer that Muslims or converts have to say 5 times a day. And it basically they have to say 5 times a day on their face, touching their forehead, touching the ground, on their knees, saying, Allah is the one true God, Muhammad is the one true prophet, and Islam is the one true religion.
And that's what they said.
That's the Shahada.
It's their creed. It's the Islamic profession of faith. Yeah. As each of the kneeling pilgrims refused, they were systematically shot in the neck, head, throat, or chest. Mark Habib had survived by his father shielding him with his body as the terrorist shot his dad to death for refusing to recite the Muslim profession of faith. The terrorists reportedly filmed the attack, leaving before it was complete because they saw more cars approaching on the road. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for the massacre that same day. Bishop Anba Makarios of Minya also recounted how the attackers told Christian men their lives would be spared if they converted to Islam. They chose death, said Bishop Makarios, who has been a vocal critic of the government's handling of anti-Christian violence in Minya. We take pride to die while holding on to our faith, the bishop said. Now that's a bishop right there with some cojones, Jess. This guy says the way he said. He's a bishop in that country, and he's telling them these people died, and that's how we should conduct ourselves. That's incredible.
I'll tell you one thing. There's going to be so many saints in heaven from these Middle Eastern countries and these communist countries.
Yeah.
Heaven is going to be full of people from these countries. But what Matt Walsh says in the article, he says that and it's an insult to us as Americans in the West.
Yeah.
He says, this is the way people are dying in the Middle East and under communist countries. They're dying like men. They're dying with faith in Jesus Christ, and there's red martyrdom. But he says here in the article, it says, but to Satan, American Christians aren't worth killing, simply aren't worth killing. Why, Matt Walsh theorized? These Christians are so spiritually lazy and so comfortable with their sinful ways, we're not a threat to Satan.
That's incredible.
He says,
Jess, why mess with us?
Yeah, he says, this is Satan's strategy for us. Plan B. This is for us. This is Matt Walsh says, which is far more effective. And this is how the church has been subjugated in America. We have bent our knees in submission to the forces of evil, and they have not even fired a shot. So he writes, why would the demons waste their time tormenting someone in America who's already walking to hell of his own volition? He said the situation is even being made worse because the church in America has been infiltrated by its own enemies. Who are the enemies that infiltrated the Catholic Church? Masons, communists, sexual degenerates, and modernists. So Matt Walsh in the article, he talks about how brave the Christians are in communist countries in the Middle East. And then he goes, that's the way Satan goes after them. Yeah. Martyrdom. Kills them through Islamic terrorism or communism. Us, he doesn't worry about us. He says us in the West, he goes, we've already bent our knees to evil. Yeah. We've already given in. He goes, he's laughing at us. He doesn't come after us with red martyrdom and swords and AR-15s. He says the West, Europe and America, we've already bent our knees to Satan. And so it's funny what he's saying, but Eddie, it's sad and it's true. Yeah. It's true. Here's one more thing he says. Do what you want. Don't worry about sin. Let's be tolerant. Let's be welcoming. Let's be accepting. This message is preached not just by the media in Hollywood. It's preached from Catholic pulpits.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So he's juxtaposing the tactics. Plan A, you go after real Christians with swords and machine guns and torture. And you go after fake Christians.
By letting them go.
Just let them, you know what? They're going to give in anyway to the culture of death and the culture of Hollywood. You don't have to do much to them. They already have no backbone.
Does everybody hear that? I mean, these terrorists are watching the United States society walk directly into the pit of hell, and their option of choice is not to mess with us. Why draw attention? Why have somebody put a task force together, do something anti-terrorism, when all they have to do is allow them to walk through? Ladies and gentlemen, we need to fortify our church. We need to stand firm, and we need to fight against those things that they're knowing we're walking into.
I want to continue on this article. It's got a few more good comments, then we'll move into something else. But we'll continue talking about Matt Walsh and the strategy, Satan's simple strategy to destroy Christianity in America. Very thought-provoking, and we've got to change the tide.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet three men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, CatholicRC.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow, that's 80%. realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911. Just this article that we're looking at by Matt Walsh about one of Satan's tactics on how to go after American Christians, as opposed to how he thinks that they're going after Middle Eastern Christians. It reminds me of an old movie that some people might remember. There's an old movie that there was a couple of terrorists by the name of El Guapo and his men, and they went after the three amigos. And when they got to the three guys, they knew that they were not very strong, masculine, and they said, "We don't kill sissies, we only kill men." And that's what this guy's doing. They only kill men. Matt Walsh is talking about American Christianity here. It's weak. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Here's my analogy, Eddie. Matt Walsh is saying that the devil goes after Middle Eastern Christians and Christians in communist countries. He goes after them with a machete. And he comes after European and American Christians with nail clippers. That's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing. It's we're laughing, but the reality is it's a very sad state of affairs here in the United States, Jess. We have totally given up to how many people watch I didn't even see it. Every time it came on television, I just shut it off. How many people watched the Oscars last night? Who cares what's going on? Who cares what gown so-and-so is wearing? It doesn't matter to me. They're all lefty.
They all hate our faith.
They hate it.
All of them hate the Catholic faith.
They hate it. And we're right there in the audience, and we're
giving them ratings.
It's incredible, Jess. Giving them plenty of ratings. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Hey, let me go back to this article.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh says, these Christians, he's talking about Middle Eastern Christians. These Christians were willing to give up everything for Christ. How many of us, speaking as Americans, are willing to give up anything, let alone everything? Most of the so-called believers in this country, America, will lash out angrily if you so much as suggest that they give up watching certain TV shows or listening to certain music. Matt Walsh continued, most American Catholics will explode in fury if you urge them to change their lifestyles to any degree whatsoever. And yet we think we possess the conviction and the faith to just give up our lives for Christ. Let's face it, this is embarrassing, Eddie. He's talking about the Western Europe, America. He said, most of us, talking about Western Christians, would grovel and weep at the feet of our Muslim captors and recite whatever Quranic prayer they want us to recite.
Ouch. That hurts.
Ouch.
And I don't doubt that
that's
true.
drink vinegar.
And I don't doubt that that's true, Jess. I don't doubt that that's true. Look at what we're doing. Can you imagine Jesus 911 in the Middle East? They're doing it in Arabic. They're probably saying, okay, you got to watch this road here. You got to watch that. You got to do this. And over here, we're saying, no, don't listen to this show. Don't watch this television program. Don't listen to this. Yes, the world is upside down right now here in the United States, and we have to do our best to right side it up, put it back where it belongs. It's incredible.
Ain't kidding. He says, therefore, to say American Christians simply aren't worth killing. These Christians are so spiritually lazy and so comfortable with their sinful ways that they are not any threat to Satan. Well, that's why we have this show, because we want to make everybody listening to this show a threat to Satan.
Absolutely.
That's what we want to do. We want to turn the tables. He says, this is Satan's strategy for us. Plan B, it's far more effective. This is how the church has been subjugated in America. We've bent our knees in submission to the forces of evil. We call it the culture of death, or the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
And they have not even fired a shot. Why would the demons waste their time tormenting someone who's already walking to hell of his own volition?
Yeah.
Eddie?
Yeah. Jess, you know what? That's That's incredible. That's an incredible thought, incredible image for us to see the United States Church walking in a path that doesn't need any distraction, doesn't need anybody to flinch at us, to try to get us to do something else. Let us precisely walk down this path towards hell, and let us go undistracted, unbothered, right into hell on our own, sinning mortally, just totally, with knowledge and everything, going through and just doing it. That's a terrible situation that we have to correct, and that's what we're doing at Jesus 911. We're doing that every day.
That's right, Eddie. Matt Walsh doesn't mince any words. He says here, faithful Christians who want to live according to Christ's teachings are alienated and disregarded by their shepherds.
There you go.
You want to see a perfect picture of that?
Yep.
There's a video of Archbishop Jose Gomez in the cathedral. He's got security around him, and there's two lay Catholics. They're Spanish-speaking. They're trying to hand him a petition of 7,500 signatures of Catholics asking him to disinvite Cardinal Mahoney, who's the modernist-in-chief in the Catholic Church in America. And in the video shows Archbishop Gomez just dismissing, walking away from these two faithful Catholics that are saying, Archbishop, in their broken Spanish, Archbishop, petitions, no, Mahoney, no Mahoney. And Bishop Gomez just walks away from them like, get away from me. And he's surrounded by security guards, and the security guards are saying, hey, get away. And the guys are saying in the video, hey, don't touch me to the security. Don't touch me. He's my bishop. I want to talk to my bishop. Yeah. You can't talk to him. Eddie, that sickened me when I watched that video, okay? And this is what Matt Walsh is talking about right here. He says that we're being alienated and disregarded by our shepherds. Pretty much the same thing happened in this 4-day summit in Rome.
Yeah.
The homosexuality issue was not even broached in Rome, okay? They obfuscated the whole thing. They said, oh, yeah, okay, we have to reboot our protect our children, just like in 2002. Let's make sure that we're following all the protocol. They never even touched the issue of rampant homosexuality in the Catholic Church amongst the priests. What Matt Walsh said right here is that faithful Christians that are trying to live according to the church's teachings are being alienated and disregarded by our shepherds. You could see it right now in the Vatican right now. Yeah. What they've done, they just swept under the carpet this entire homosexual predator problem that we have. And Archbishop Gomez is on video dismissing two of his Mexican parishioners who are saying, Archbishop, don't invite Cardinal Mahoney to speak at the RE Congress. Again, oftentimes I think they just look at us like, pray, pay, and obey, and shut up.
Yeah.
Well, Eddie, there's Catholic media now, and there's the internet and social media. We have to start voicing our opinions with respect, but we can't keep our mouths shut. We got to shout out the truth from the rooftops.
Yeah, Jess, you know what? Matt Walsh continues here to say, Satan himself speaks from the mouths of the many priests and pastors in this country. Like we said, Jess, this is exactly what we're fighting against. They are fighting us from outside the church, and they're fighting us from within the church. And we have to have a dual battle here, a tooled battle to be able to fend off the ones from the outside and fend off the ones from the inside. He says, when Christians do drag themselves to church, he said, desperate for guidance, they are given nothing from most pulpits. This is a very, very compelling argument, just that we're not getting anything from our bishops, our pastors, our priests that will allow us to fight. We got a lot of, I heard all over the media and regular media and Catholic media that the Pope said, we have to fight against, child predators. And we get that. What about the homosexuality, Pope? What about the homosexuality against those priests, bishops, archbishops that are actually doing the pedophilia, that are not even the pedophilia, the one-on-one, male-on-male sexual predators. That's what we have to fight, and it seems like they let it go by the wayside.
That's right. Matt Walsh says also he blames American Christians' softness on having and fulfilling too many competing material desires. He says this prevents us from desiring God. He said, Walsh added that he was very frightened that when such Christians meet God face to face, many will be forced to admit that they do not want God, only themselves. And to stop this from happening, Walsh recommended, first of all, prayer. Prayer changes us and makes us desire the more sacred and sinful and sinful less. And he says, and you start to find out that a lot of music you listen to, that a lot of shows that you watch, once you start praying, they no longer appeal to you anymore. Yeah, and you find that certain sins and temptations have less of a hold of you when you start praying. And he says the desire for God when you start praying is kindled, and we know it, and we start to feel it, and that's the crucial thing for us to want right now. And he ends, he says, because I believe the truth is in the end, and we will all be given exactly what we want, and that's a terrifying reality. In other words, he's saying, you want heaven, you'll get heaven. You want hell, you'll get hell.
Yep.
And what's the difference? Prayer. Prayer changes everything. Hey, we got Wilson Crystal on the air. Wilson, you're on Jesus 911. Go ahead. Go ahead, Wilson.
Hello.
Yeah, guys.
Wilson, you're on.
Oh, Carmen.
Carmen.
Oh, hey, guys.
Hi.
Carmen from Salt Lake here.
How you doing?
Hey, preface. real
Okay.
quick, I'm a former Marine, went to Iraq a couple times, so I know like the feeling of the hatred from the religion of Islam face to face. But that's not.
Thank
why
you
I
for
called.
Thank you for your
my friend.
service, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, man, you guys are welcome, and it is my honor. The reason I'm calling is I've been listening to. I was just about to pull his name up. The Exorcist, the Father. Oh, I
Amorth?
can't remember his name. I was about
Pat
to-
Ripperger?
Ripburger?
That's the one.
Okay.
That's the one. And, man, really interesting. Like, whoa, eye-opening. And I wanted to know, how do you know you are in the state of grace, one, and then how do you consecrate your belongings, your family, yourself to the Blessed Virgin or other saints?
Carmen, good question. How do you know you're in a state of grace? If you want to know if you're in a state of grace, I'll tell you what, go to confession to a priest, confess everything, especially mortal sin. What prevents you from being in a state of grace in a right relationship with God is mortal sin. Venial sin weakens your soul, but it doesn't break or separate you from God. Mortal sin does. So to make sure you're in a state of grace, just go to confession to a priest, confess all your sins, especially mortal sin. That's
Serious, significant sin.
Yeah, and at that point, just every single night before you go to bed, have a little conversation with God. You know, examine your day. It's called an examination of conscience. And say a good act of contrition before you go to bed at night, just so that any venial sins that you may have committed throughout the day, they're wiped away, they're remitted. And if you have mortal sin, even in the evening, it's remitted through an act of contrition, with the caveat that you go to a Catholic priest as soon as possible, so you can put yourself in a state of grace every single day. A state of grace means your soul is free from mortal sin. That's basically it. You're in a right relationship with God. You have friendship with God. God, the Trinity, resides in your soul. We'll answer your second question on the other side. Don't change that.
Stay with us.
Roger.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet three men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911. Jess, how you doing? Carmen, are you still on the line with us?
It's our call letter.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Listen, repeat your second question for us.
Oh, yeah, I remembered it. His second question was, how do you consecrate yourself to Mary?
Okay, there it is, yes.
Carmen, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can go on the internet. You got, there's an old school consecration. It's called Consecration of St. Louis de Montfort. I think it's 30 some days where you pray every single day. And on a Marian feast day, that's the final consecration to Mary. There's a new one written by a Catholic priest. I'm trying to remember his name. It's called 30 Days to Morning Glory. Is a young Catholic priest. It's more of a modern consecration to Mary that's very popular. People are using it all around the church. I'll remember it right now. He's part of Father Donald Calloway's order. So you can go on the internet and you can look at both of those. They're just basically, the word consecrate means dedicate. That's what it means. So it's every single day you're saying a series of prayers, but they're pretty long. It's pretty long up until the final prayer of consecration to Mary, which is on one of the Marian feast days. So look at St. Louis de Montfort's consecration, and look on the internet and look at 30 Days to Morning Glory by a young Catholic priest. I forget his name right now.
Somebody's saying it's Father Michael Gately, Jess. Is that who it is?
There you go.
Okay, thanks, Ricky.
Yeah. But thank you. And also, you can do a consecration to Mary and Jesus every day. I do it every day. The morning offering, I do it every day. Mm-hmm. It's a consecration to Jesus every day. And then I also do a separate consecration every morning to Mary. So every day of my life, I wake up, make the sign of the cross. I do a consecration to Jesus. It's what's called a morning offering. And then I do a consecration to Mary. So again, it's not something that you can only do like one time. I did it back in 1996. I did the 30 Days of Morning Glory. It's something that we should be doing every single day. In fact, if you email me, I'll send you the prayers that I use every single day to consecrate myself to Jesus every morning and Mary. Just go to my website, jessieromero.com, and I'll send you my prayers.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I do the morning offering one for sure every day.
Yeah, the morning offering is the one to Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, okay, I do that one.
The Immaculate Heart of Mary, I offer you my prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the morning up. You're giving your day to Jesus. That's called a consecration.
Okay.
Just add one specifically to Mary. There's one for Mary. It goes, my queen, my mother, I give myself entirely to you and to show my devotion to you. It's called consecration to Mary. It's on the internet. Those are the ones I use every morning. I've been doing it for like 20 years.
Now, is that one that you could just add like your property and all your things?
That one. Yeah, that one. I give you all my eyes, my ears, my heart, my whole being without reserve. Therefore, most loving mothers, I am your own. Keep me, defend me as your property and possession. Amen. It's a short prayer. It's beautiful. Yeah. And you consecrate your day every day to Mary.
And that helps you stay in a state of grace also, Carmen.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
So, and going back to the confession to be in state of grace, I mean, rest assured that when you make a good confession, you're in the state of grace. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, bingo. That's how you get it. The word state of grace means this, that God is in your soul. God, the Trinity, is called sanctifying grace. God lives in your soul, resides in your soul. And the only way to remove God from your soul is by unconfessed, unrepentant mortal sin.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
All right, my friend.
Appreciate you guys. Bye.
All right, Carmen. Thanks again for your service, man. God bless.
Yep.
Hey, thanks, guys.
All righty.
We got Susan calling from Lexington, Ohio. Susan, you're on. Go.
Hello, Jesse. Very grateful for your show and appreciate all that you are doing. Agree with the majority of the things you say.
Yeah.
And I'm very upset about what is going on in the Catholic Church.
Me too.
In the way of the sexual abuse and corruption. And as I heard you say before, money is the root of evil and excessive money in the Catholic Church. I do agree with praying and fasting. That's a lot of what we can do to try to redeem the situation, what's going on. But do you think maybe it would get some attention if people would quit giving so much money to the Vatican and the diocese and all these envelopes, extra envelopes they have when they hand them out every month to the church? No, I agree to give to your local church what you can, but over and above is excess, and I think the excess money is being used for corruption and these crooked clergy to do things that they shouldn't be doing with that
Susan,
money.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I agree with you. I'm speaking to me personally. Jesse Romero, at this point right now, anything that comes into the parish to the USCCB, I'm not going to give anything to the USCCB at this point indefinitely. Anything Peter's Pence to the Vatican, I'm not giving anything.
Right.
Until this is completely exposed, people are arrested, more people are defrocked. I'm supporting my local parish and my local diocese. I happen to have one of the good bishops, so it's kind of easy.
And that's what I was going to mention, Jesse. You have one of the good bishops. Those of us in areas, Susan, you and I, if we happen to be in an area that is not orthodox, that is not traditional in its teaching and everything that comes out of the mouths of the priests and pastors, I would disagree with you in that I'm going to donate to my local church. If that's the case, don't do that. Do something other than, for example, something diocesan. If you want to donate to some local charity or local something that even in the church, if they're doing something that you agree with that's orthodox, let's do that. But anything that goes towards the diocese or towards a larger plan, I would stay away from it. Be very careful, read up on it, and look into it before I donate my money to it. That's the only way we're going to stop.
And support those good parishes and good priests in your diocese. Even if you have a liberal diocese, there's good priests and good parishes. Abandon those leftist, modernist, progressive parishes and go and find a good parish, a good pastor that's reverent at Mass and teaches the Catholic faith. We have to abandon all these liberal, modernist parishes. That's why they keep spewing this heterodoxy, because Catholics keep supporting them.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that if you withdraw the money from that particular church where you see that the crookedness and error is going on, then maybe the hierarchy will see that and change that church.
And Susan, it's happening, by the way. Let me give you some good news. Legatus, these guys are very wealthy Catholics. They give a lot of money to the church. Legatus this year withheld their donations to the Vatican. Okay, they give millions of dollars every year. These are very wealthy Catholic Americans. They said, no, not this year, until we see transparency and people being defrocked and people being arrested. So also the other organization that gives a lot of money to the Catholic Church, it's called Papal Foundation. I won't get too personal. I know a lot of the big players there. They told me personally, I know big players there. These are all millionaire Catholics. They said, we withheld our money this year. So people are doing this, even some of these very wealthy Catholics, Legatus and Papal Foundation, they're saying, no, we're withholding our money to the Vatican and to the U.S. bishops until we have resolution. Yeah, so, people are listening, Susan.
Yeah, and you know what, Susan, by the way, whether or not you like Trump, you don't like Trump, listen, that the fight that he's in, withdrawing the money from Planned Parenthood, that's part of what we stand for. That's part of Orthodox Catholicism. Yes, it has other aspects to it with non-Catholics, that's fine. But the reality is, if you want your money to go to something that's worthwhile, there's a lot of pro-life causes out there that we can help donate to, right? So let's do that. Whether or not we like Trump, that's here or there. But you know what?
I like Trump. I think he's doing a lot of good for
I do too.
Christians and for pro-life.
Right,
yep,
I do too.
I agree.
That's why I'm bringing him up, is that we need to help him help us, and that way the whole thing works out the way we want it to. And yeah, thank you, Susan, for calling.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you for calling. God bless.
God bless you.
Yeah.
You bet.
Hey, we got David from Ohio. I just want to give a shout out. I was this weekend at Columbus, Ohio. I spoke to over 3,000 Catholic men. It's the largest men's conference in the United States at present. Want to say shout out to all you guys there in Columbus, Ohio. It was a great weekend, and you guys are doing great things out there in Ohio. So, David, go ahead, Dave. You're on. David from Ohio.
Hey, Jesse. I just want to let you know I appreciate your show. When I preached on the streets, I've had guns pulled on me. I've been threatened to be killed. And if I do, I would consider it an honor. And everything that you're saying, I think that first sums it up. 2 Corinthians 5:15. He died for all, that those that live should no longer live for themselves, but live for the one who died and rose to give for them. Even if there was no heaven to gain or no purgatory, I still would serve God with all my heart because he's king and he's worthy. We need to surrender all because there's coming a day where the persecution is going to hit America just like it's hitting the fourth. And Wordbrand, who started Voice of the Martyrs, once said to somebody I know that the persecution, and he went through great persecution in Romania, is far more severe in America because we're being lulled to sleep by the enemy. It says in the Bible, awaken to righteousness and sin not. And you guys are sounding the alarm, and all Catholics need to sound the alarm. If you're going to be Catholic in thought, word, and deed. It's time to be real.
Amen,
Right.
David.
You know, David, you remind me of the story of the frog. You know, if you throw a frog into a boiling pot of water, he's going to jump right out. But what's happening to us here in America is they're putting us in a nice, warm, lukewarm water, and they're slowly turning it up, and we're getting scalded because of the hot water, the sin that the state that we're in right now. That's the problem.
Yep.
Thank you,
Good
David.
comment, David. We agree. God bless you, brother. Yep.
Okay.
Eddie, next time we meet, because we're not going to do justice to it.
Yeah.
We have another article here we wanted to get into. It's called The Age of Anti-Mary. So we'll do it next time that we meet because it's worthy of an entire segment. I don't want to just give it 2 minutes and brush it off.
Yeah, I agree.
But how do you want to wrap up today's show, Eddie? What say you?
You know, Jess, I would just like to remind everybody about sin and about what constitutes mortal sin, how to stay away from it, how to avoid it at all costs, because this is what happens, Jess. We are in this lukewarm body of water where we're being slow boiled to death, and most of us don't even know it. Most Catholics don't even know it. You know, I hear all the time about bad things going on in the church, and so listen, we need to stay strong. We need to stay in Christ Jesus. We need to, you know what? We'll get into this anti-Mary article next time, Jess. This is an awesome article. But
It is.
But the reality is, we stay close to Mama Mary because she's close to Jesus. Ladies
That's right.
and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Here's the last thing I'll say. St. Thomas Aquinas was told by his sister, said, hey, Brother Thomas, how do I get to heaven? St. Thomas told his sister, just will it. Just will it. So what do I tell you right now? How do you get to heaven right now in 2019? Just will it. You have to desire this in your intellect and in your will with all your mind, heart, soul, and strength. And God is a gentleman. God will give you what you will, what you desire. You want heaven? He'll give it to you. You want hell? You'll get it as well.
Yep, be careful what you ask for because you're going to get it. Ladies and gentlemen, stay by for Gary Machuda on Hands On Apologetics. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.
St. Faustina's Prayer for Priests. O my Jesus, I beg thee on behalf of the whole Church, grant it love and the light of thy Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to thee, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. Thou thyself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great High Priest, may the power of thy mercy accompany them everywhere, and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of thy mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests. For thou canst do all things. Amen. Virgin most powerful, pray for us.